How you doing? You got your water?
Yes, I'm all set.
Alrighty, I've battened down the hatches and yeah, I'm in the soundproof room.
Good.
I've I've put a cloaking device over the babies. That that should be good. And then I do want to um, turn off again my sounds, and let's turn the notifications off, media's off, ringtone, that is going off. So I think we're decent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just obviously I didn't have hair and makeup today, and can't do much about it. What am I gonna do? It is what it is.
Exactly. Especially when you get to a certain age, you stop caring.
Well, we already have 65 people, so shall I let them in and we'll just chat a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, start webinar. Boop. Let's get this started. Once you click start, attendees can join. Start. 20, 30, 40. They're coming in. Can you feel the energy?
Yes, for sure.
So I think the people, as they come in, then they'll be able to see the screen, but until they get in, they're not gonna see the little comments. So you're waving to your friends?
The comments pop up as they come on. So
They
I see,
they do pop
hi.
up. So hey everyone, good to see you tonight. And before we officially start, feel free to share where you're from, um, your favorite song, if you want, like what kind of level you're teaching, like preschool, 0 to 3, kindergarten, first, second, or something. If you're regular or special ed, um, so that would be cool. And Susan, I guess, is just checking out the chat. It's coming in kind of fast and furious. Are you a speed reader?
Well, yes, as long as the comments aren't too long. Seeing lots of people from New York and people who are freezing. Actually, I'm in Tennessee and we got snow. So when snow happens in the South, it gets cold. Everybody's freezing. So I get it.
So thank you. Anne is the librarian. That's cool. I got
Okay,
that.
free. Perfect.
Binghamton, you must be freezing. My son is in Binghamton.
Oh, good.
Uh, and LB, like Long Beach, maybe?
New
No.
Jersey.
Mm-hmm. All right.
A lot of people from New Jersey. That's where my dad was from.
Okay, beautiful. So you didn't grow up there.
No, nope. I do a great New York accent though, and if they visit my website, I have a character that I play that I do short fun videos for preschool teachers. They're very funny because
Uh-huh.
teachers need to laugh. So they'll see that.
Yvonne, hola,
Connect.
bienvenidos de Puerto Rico.
Oh, wonderful. Puerto Rico.
Uh-huh. All right, beautiful. Working with visually impaired. Interesting.
Right.
That could be interesting in terms of the book, right, Susan?
Yes.
I imagine that, you know. All right, we'll give it another minute or so.
Okay.
Uh, let the masses finish joining. Zuni, New Mexico. That is interesting.
Yeah, I saw that.
I've seen that on the map.
Okay.
I've seen that on the map. I probably went through Oahu. Okay. Aloha.
Yes, we have someone from Hawaii. I'm sure most of us wish we were in Hawaii right now.
So I think that we ought to we ought to get this party started. What do you think?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'm gonna just move the chat ever so gently. And if I have any luck, we will now see the title. It will magically appear. Wait a sec. Before I do that, Long Beach only has flurries. Okay. All right. Well, if you're not a skier, that'll be fine, I imagine. Okie doke. So, welcome to Young Child Learning's webinar tonight on the six pre-literacy skills and books to teach them with Susan Frizzell. And you can reach Susan at her website, fabfrizz.com. So, sort of like the background, fab,
That's right.
or or Susan LWF, correct?
That's correct.
So LWF at mac.com. So this webinar is presented by Young Child Learning. Young Child Learning puts on online webinars live as well as on demand. Our library is building. Check it out, youngchildlearning.com, as well as workshops and little tip videos. Thank you to Los Niños Services for sponsoring tonight's webinar and making it possible. Just a couple of reminders. Use chat for any questions, comments. We might read some of the questions during, but we might save them, Susan. So we'll just see how the mood strikes us and, whatever works. I know you're Miss Flexible.
Of course, you have to be as a preschool teacher, any teacher.
It definitely, I think that's true. Um, and then we're going to send the handouts resources within the Zoom. So look for that. Certificates will be coming. Also, the recording will be available. The recording is available for purchase, $19, and then you would get 6 months access and a certificate or CEU if that's what you wish. And for the CU policy, just make sure that you time in. If you didn't do that yet, please do so and make sure that you time out and complete the evaluation form in order to get the CEUs. All right. Any questions you have at any time, including now, you can email Carrie LaRosa. She's our very capable administrator, and she is on this webinar on the back end as we speak. So she may be communicating with you about any questions. Just email learn@youngchildlearning.com. Certificate of attendance comes as part of this. As soon as you finish your evaluation form, you will get your certificate of attendance. And some people might want to watch on a mobile. You can do it, but you may not see as much, and your best experience is on a laptop or iPad, if that is possible. Tonight, Susan is really not going to be using a lot of slides, so you won't have a lot of that to to do. So for tonight's webinar, shouldn't make a huge difference. Just a little bit about me. I'm a psychologist and also formed Los Niños Services 25 years ago. Started Young Child Learning a couple of years back, and it's a continuation basically of Young Child Expo and Conference, which we held for 17 years. So we're very pleased that that conference grew to 1,500 people attending from 20 countries and work with young children for 30 years or so. I started when I had hair. Susan, It's really a pleasure, and I really thank you for joining us tonight. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. And Carrie. So I have been a teacher for a very long time. I had hair back then too. Thankfully, I still have it. So I started with preschool. Well, I did summer camps, and then I got into preschool teaching. And I've taught like the 1 to 2 year olds. I've been in all the rooms. Mostly, my specialty was 4 to 5 year olds. And then I eventually got into public school teaching, where I taught kindergarten and first grade. And one of my loves and one of my degrees is in art. And so I was really hoping to get into art education. Sadly, the only job open in the public school system at the time in my county was middle school. Woo! That was a huge transition because when you love the littles and then you jump to middle school and you're used to all the language you use, it doesn't work with middle schoolers, let me tell you right now. So when they came in fighting one day, I was still in the we don't touch our friends that way, and it just doesn't work. So I learned after a couple of months of crying that I needed to get a little bit more sarcastic and tough. And I really grew to love those little balls of hormone with the middle school students. And that's when I won Teacher of the Year, which I'm very proud of, especially for an art teacher. And after that, I raised some kids. And when I was here in Nashville, more recently, a couple of years ago, I worked for the Nashville Public Library as their curriculum coordinator. Now, they had an outreach program where we would go and visit the schools in the area. And I presented big story times, and I did a lot of professional development. I created a lot of their teacher trainings. And after a little while, I decided I wanted to go bigger and even more creative. And so I'm out on my own now. And what I do is I do school visits, and I bring a magical learning environment that I create in a 10 by 10 tent. I call it a tent adventure. And I tell a story, the tent is closed. And then when I'm done with the story, the kids are all excited. And I open up the doors of the tent, and inside will be a spring garden or a fall farm, and the kids get to interact and play while they're learning their words and their shapes and their sorting. So it's so much fun, and I absolutely love it. I also do professional development because after being a teacher and being in lots of professional developments, sitting through many that didn't really pertain to me or that just weren't that great, I decided I really wanted to make sure whatever I create for professional development, that it would be as relevant as possible, and that I give you a lot of ideas, because my main goal is to grab attention. If your kids are not paying attention to you, they're not learning, and it has nothing to do with how much you know. So I've come up with a lot of things to get attention, especially when I was working for the library. Sometimes I would do a story time with the whole school. So I would have 100 kids in the room with me to read a story to, and they would be all ages. So not easy, but I learned how to do it. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite books that I know that kids love and that worked with every single school that I went to, that they paid attention to, as well as teach you how to do some pre-literacy skills. So all that is teaching how to read before kids know how to read. It's really very simple. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Scott, you
And
want
bef
to go on?
and before we move there, Susan,
Yes.
so how far do you travel, like to do your presentations?
Well, right now I'm mostly staying within the area, but I would be open if you get a grant to fly me somewhere. Actually, next week I'm going to be driving to Knoxville, Tennessee, and work at an elementary school there, as well as Chattanooga. So that will be pretty exciting. But they both got grants through the Tennessee Arts Commission to hire me. So
So our friend on the call from Oahu, Hawaii, or Puerto Rico, if they twisted your arm, you might consider it.
I might consider it. Yes, we'll
Okay.
find a grant somewhere.
Okay. All right. Beautiful.
Okay, so these are the 6 pre-literacy skills that I mentioned. Now, as I said, like print motivation, print awareness, when I first started reading over those, I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Well, basically, I'm going to tell you, and I'm pretty sure you're probably already doing these things. I'm just going to point that out to you, and I'm going to make sure that you just read a book with a little bit more intention, and boom, you're teaching literacy. It's as simple as that, because goodness knows we don't need to make our jobs any more complicated than they already are. So let's go into the first skill, which is print motivation. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the books that you can use for print motivation and what it is. I'm going to hold up the books. I'm going to show the covers to you. On the handout, do not worry because the handout has the whole book list there. So feel free, if you forget a title or something like that, you'll have your handout. So, okay, print motivation. We can go back to me now, so we'll start showing books. All print motivation is getting kids to love to read. That's it. It's exactly what it sounds like. So to get kids to love reading, especially when they're younger, the key to that is choosing books that are very interactive, that the kids can play with. And you also need to read things that you love and enjoy. I had a colleague that did not like Dr. Seuss, and so she refused to read it to the classes, which is probably a good choice, even though you would say Dr. Seuss is a classic. But if you don't prefer it, you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, well, the cat in the hat came in one day, and you're going to show that you're not excited about it, and the kids are not going to be excited about it. So it's okay to not read those classic books. So the very first book I have for you is Babies Here by Jessica Young. So for you, I saw there was a couple infant toddler teachers. This is a board book, so it's really great. Now, the reason why I chose this book is that it is very interactive and it talks about a new baby that comes into the household. Now, what's cool is that it will tell you on the pages, okay, tickle baby's feet. Okay, you could turn the book up like this. Sorry, I can't show you the pages, and hold it like you're walking the baby. It'll have a picture of the baby like this. It's really, really fun. The kids love it. Now, when I was working for the library, I got to meet the author of this book, and it's so amazing to hear what children's book authors go through. Okay, we can read these books and say, oh, they're very simple, but there was one book that took her 10 years to get edited and put out. I mean, it's crazy the amount of editing that goes into these. So here is a really fun, interesting thing about this book. You can see the way it's shaped. Okay, the reason why this author did that is because she wanted the kids to hold and touch this book. There is a page of the baby that when you open it up, she wanted the kids to hold it like this, like they're cradling a baby, because that's what the picture looks like. And see the rounded edges, that way they don't get poked. And there are natural edges for the kids to fit their arms in. Very clever. So when you see interesting shaped books, just know that there was a whole lot of thought that went into those books. So this is wonderful. I suggest it for infant toddlers, even up to 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, because they can sort of look through it themselves. And it's also a great story about having another child in the home. So you have a lot of those kids in your classrooms that just have a new baby brother or sister. This is the book for you. Again, Jessica Young, she's great because she's local. So I've worked with her quite a bit. All right. The next book I have for you, this is a huge hit. So like I said before, when I'd go to schools, there were certain books that no matter what class you read it to or which school it was, all of the kids loved them. Okay. It's called Vegetables and Underwear by Jared Chapman. All right. Now, you know that when you open up the book and say underwear, the kids are going to giggle and laugh all over the place. All right. Now, this is also, it's good, but it's also a good way to completely lose control of the classroom. Okay. So here is what you're going to do. Whenever I read this book, I tell the kids now, I have to tell you that I have chosen one of the funniest books from the library. And you're going to laugh. But here's the thing. If you want to see the next super funny page, you're going to have to get quiet so that I can turn the page and then we can laugh again. So you want to give them permission to laugh and giggle and be crazy, but then they're going to get quiet. I'm like, okay, are you ready for the next page? And then they'll get quiet again, and then you turn the page. Now, what's fantastic about this book is not only is it hysterical, but you learn about vegetables. So you can teach about vegetables with the kids. You can teach about emotions because the pictures are super cute. And so I'll show the back. And there are pictures where there's like a baby carrot, and they're like, sorry, babies, you can't wear underwear, you wear diapers. And they start crying. So you can talk about different emotions through this wonderful book. It also talks about opposites. Okay. It's a very, very simple book to read. And there's few words on each page, but it talks about big underwear and little underwear. Now, whenever I read through a book, which here's tip number 1, always read your books first before you read them to your class, because sometimes you never know, there might be something in there. Funny story real quick, because I'm going to have some of those. My colleague read this, just picked up this book about pirate because it was the summer, everybody wanted to do pirates. So she read this book about a pirate and his parrot, and she's going through and she turns the page and suddenly it's like, and then Captain Johnny's parrot died. Boy, talk about a buzzkill. I mean, she didn't know what to do. And the kids were like, ooh. So definitely read your books first, see what it's about, be prepared. Anyway, so what I do is when I read through a book, I try to figure out what page I can be interactive with. So this one is naturally interactive. I'm going to show you books that will give you instructions on that. When you read it, it tells the kids what to do. This one, not necessarily so. So I figure out a way to get the kids involved, especially good for 1 to 2-year-olds, 2-year-olds especially. So there's a page that talks about there's clean underwear and then there's dirty underwear, again with the opposites. But what I do is I say to the kids, I'll hold the book, I'm like, oh, this next page, okay, this is what you have to do, okay? Everybody, you're going to pinch your nose, and I'm going to read, okay? Or pinch your nose, okay. First, there's clean underwear, and then there's dirty underwear. And everybody, oh, yeah, so gross. But see, then that way they're anticipating what's going to come. They're doing something with their hands instead of poking each other, right? And so they're paying attention and focused on the book. So figure out something that you can do when you read through the book. What can we do? I'll give you more hints with the other books that I'm going to show you about how to make them interactive. But for this one, that's usually what I do. Vegetables underwear, fantastic. Kids love it because it's silly. You could teach vegetables. You could teach, about the different things. You could teach about opposites. It's just a terrific all-around book. Okay. Next book on the list. Mac Barnett, Count the Monkeys. Oh my heavens to Betsy. Sorry, no, I'm still on print motivation, Scott. Not ready yet. You're
Sorry
getting
about
too
that.
excited. You're getting too excited. Okay. All right. Count the Monkeys by Mac Barnett. Now, again, I'm going to tell you a story because Mac Barnett is my most favorite children's book author ever. Okay. In Nashville, my husband's in the music industry, so I get to meet some stars and things like that. Don't really fangirl over that. Children's book authors, however, I go crazy for. Now, in Nashville, there was a couple of years ago, there's been 2, but the one closer towards COVID time, there was a big conference and Mac Barnett came. And I love his books because they're hugely clever. I am sure we have some teachers on here who love sort of the little sarcasm. Then you're going to love Mac Barnett because he's adorable. He's just amazing. So Polar Bear in the Snow. I know, aren't the illustrations gorgeous in that book? So Mac Barnett presented, and I was there with my books. And he came in, and I was with my colleague, and I was like, "Oh, it's Mac Barnett. He's here." And she was like, "I know he'll be up on the stage soon." Well, he came in and he sat in the front row. He was just a couple of chairs down from me. And so I sat there, and she looked at me. I looked at her. I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to be great." And I was And I did. I totally scooted over, sat right next to him, and I was like, "Oh my God, Mac Barnett, I love your books so much. And I read them to all the schools that I go to. I like the Duck and the Mouse, and then they count the monkeys. And, I hold the page and I wait to show it to the kids." He's like, "I do that too." And I'm like, "I know." And it was great. I absolutely, he was delightful for as much as I fangirled him. He was just lovely, I have to say. So, how crazy wonderful he is because Netflix has given him his own show about his Shape series. Anyway, Count the Monkeys is terrific. The sarcastic part about this book is that every counting page, there are no monkeys. That's why I love Mac Barnett. So it'll start and it'll show some rhinoceroses. You're like, "Oh, there's 4 rhinoceros that scared those monkeys away. Okay, maybe if we growl at them, they will run away." So everybody, 1, 2, 3, growl. So this is a book that tells you what to do before you turn the page. All you have to do is read it, get the kids involved. They have to vote whether we call it mongooses or mongeeses. I mean, there's all sorts of wonderful interactive things. Now, the good surprise is that the very last page, you're like, "There were no monkeys in this book, and we've been through the whole book, and I can't believe it." Now, I built this up to the kids because the end page is where all the monkeys are, okay? So I'll stay on the last page, and I'm like, "That's it. I'm so disappointed. There are no monkeys." And the kids will be like, "There's still one more page." I'll be like, "No, I can't do it anymore. I can't read another page because there are no monkeys, and I'm so disappointed." And the kids will be like, "But there's one more page." I said, "Fine. Okay, I'm going to hold it up, but I'm not going to look. I'm going to turn the page, and you tell me because there's probably not going to be monkeys." And I'll hold the book up, and I'll go like this, and I'll slowly reveal the page. And all the kids are like, "Oh, there's monkeys. Look at all the monkeys. Oh my gosh." And they all go crazy for it. So this is also a really, really fun book. Your kids are going to love it, and you'll love it and enjoy it because you're teaching counting. You're talking about all kinds of things. Another trick that I do, this book in particular, it talks about so one of the pages has got crazy rhinoceroses, so hard not to show you, and like polka dotted pants or something crazy like that. And I'll say, "I wonder what this next page is going to be. Who thought of that?" Because it's to scare away another one of the animals. And I'm like, "Who thought of the polka dotted rhinoceroses? Did you guys think that?" Because I'll have them the page before. I'm like, "Okay, everybody imagine something that's going to scare away the grizzly bears. Everybody imagine it in their heads." And then you turn the page and say, "What? Rhinoceros is wearing polka dotted pants? Who thought of that one? Was it you?" And the kids, listen, you guys know it could be the craziest thing in the world. And there's going to be the kids that said, "That was me. I totally thought that was me. I thought of that." So it doesn't matter if they really thought of it or not. Somebody's going to claim it. They always do because kids love to be the center of attention. That's a good way to get them to use their imaginations and be quiet. Okay. So, okay, I want you to imagine what's going to happen on the next page. You could close their eyes and imagine it. Boom. It's terrific. Okay. Now, Scott, we can go on to the next pre-literacy skill.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Print awareness. That is just a silly way of saying an understanding of what it is we're reading in a book. Are you reading the pictures or are you reading those kind of scribbly things on a page, right? So just imagine it like if you go to a foreign country and you see as kind of like what we have up on the slide here. You see writing, and so you are aware that that sign is saying something, but you can't read it yet. Like you have no idea what it says. So that is what print awareness is all about. It's just getting the kids to understand that the written words are the things that they are eventually going to read. Okay? That makes sense with everybody? Okay. So, the first book that I'm going to tell you about that is very helpful for print awareness. This was another author that I got to meet. And he's from New York, you guys. Maybe some of you even know him. Steve Light, Builders and Breakers. Okay. Steve Light is just one of the neatest authors that I've met. He is sweet and lovely. I don't love him as much as Mac Barnett because Mac Barnett has my heart. But Steve Light is also amazing. He is author and an illustrator. And we flew him down to Nashville to give a professional development for our teachers. And he taught, again, it's so neat to listen to the background of these authors. What he does, because he's in New York, he has a tiny little space, right? And he uses an ink pen. That's one of his favorite things to draw with, which you can kind of see if you look close there. Okay. So he has this little cubby that he kind of slides into and he draws, and he carries a sketchbook like this big in his pocket because he's very inspired by all of the construction and the building and everything that goes on in New York City. This book is very simple, so it's really good. It's like each page will have like builders build, and the next page will say and breakers break. What inspired him to do this book is that he said there's all sorts of construction books about building, but there weren't any about the demolition side of it, about the breaking. And if you're a preschool teacher, you know it's one of the most favorite things for kids to do is to knock down all the buildings that they built. So this is very appropriate. I've actually turned this into a whole activity that I take into schools for infant and toddlers. Where I bring boxes and little plastic hammers, and they all wear cute little hard hats. And so I read the book and then we play, and I put construction sounds in the background on a speaker, and they love it. That's all you got to do. I mean, if you don't have a big budget at your preschool, which whoever heard of a big budget at a preschool? I know. But you just, sometimes it would be fun if you just put the toys away, cover them up, and bring in a bunch of boxes. You know, as much as I do, those kids will probably play for a whole week. So the cool part about Steve Light, why I like him, is he's also a classroom teacher. Same with Jessica Young, which is why I selected them to come visit the library to give talks, because they understand what happens in the classroom. And so they write their books to be used in the classroom, right? So Builders and Breakers is really great because when you're trying to teach print awareness, the most important thing you need to look for in a book when you want to teach this skill, or if you find a book that has nice big font and sort of a simple place, like if it's sort of blank where they have the words and then the illustrations are over here, it becomes very apparent what the words are, right? Because you're pointing out the words in the book as you read them. That is print awareness. So when you're selecting a book or you find a book, you're like, ooh, there's only about 3 words per page here, and there's a lot of negative space around it. The font is nice and big. That's going to be an easy way to teach print awareness. So you could just kind of run your finger under there and point it out to the kids. So that's the type of book that you want to choose to teach that. Builders and Breakers is just a lovely story about that. It talks about how they build and how they break. So yes, your student loves building blocks and knocking them down. So what I would do is I would take my classroom, maybe stick away a couple of the other toys, just put out all your blocks, and you read this. You get those little plastic hardware hats off of Amazon and let them have at it. Give them little plastic hammers and they stack those boxes up, knock them down. Yes, let me tell you what, when I go visit a school and I bring this activity in for the infant toddler classes, I have 1 to 2 year old classes that will sit and play for 45 minutes straight. And they don't get into trouble and they have a great time and they're completely focused and playing. And when you do something like this, what I suggest, I'm sure you guys probably already know, I'm sure many of you are seasoned teachers, but when you do a special activity, if you're going to turn your classroom into a construction area, put out construction books. Just have them laying out when their kids are playing. And they'll go over and they'll pick it up and they'll start reading, because that's what I do when I visit a school. And there was a little boy who did. He crawled right over to the chair and climbed up in it and opened up that little truck book and started looking through it. So you never know when they're going to make that connection. So first for print awareness is Builders and Breakers. Lovely. I have another book by Steve Light, but that's for later. Okay. Groovy Joe Ice Cream and Dinosaurs is also wonderful for print awareness. However, the kids love, love, love it. Now, I'm going to tell you this interesting fact. Eric Litwin, you may or may not know that children's book author name because you might not be a geek like I am about children's book authors. Here's the thing. I'm sure all of you know Pete the Cat. If you ever have heard Pete the Cat, put it in the chat. I'll wait. I'm sure it'll go, what do they call it? A waterfall or something, right? Yeah, of course we've all heard of Pete the Cat. Now, if you've noticed about Pete the Cat, the first couple of books were the best. Am I right? I love my new shoes. I love the whole shoes book, the groovy buttons. The kids love it. If you notice, the first couple of books have a great rhythm, It's easy to read. You fall right into it when you read it, okay? Sometimes, yes, when you sing the words, 100%. Sometimes you get a rhyming book and you kind of read it and you're like, that doesn't really flow right. I don't know. I don't get it. But Pete the Cat flows. You know why? Because Eric Litwin wrote the first 3 books. He didn't write all of them. He just wrote the first 3. And you know what? He's a songwriter. That's why they flow so well. You know what else flows well? Groovy Joe. He's not as famous as Pete the Cat. This is just as good. Plus, it's got ice cream and dinosaurs in it. You got a reason to have the parents bring you ice cream. So it's fabulous. So it's the same kind of thing. And it gets to the page. It's very repetitive. First comes a little dinosaur, bursts into the room, and he glares at Joe, and he wants ice cream. So Joe lets him sit down, and then he shares because it's awesome to share. And then they all sing. I love my doggy ice cream. I love my doggy ice cream. And then you go to the next page and the same thing happens. So the font in this is great too, because it's got that section off to the side. You've got some letters that are really emphasized big, that are different than the other letters. So this is a great one for print awareness, but this is another one of the greatest hits. This book, all of the kids love, just like Pete the Cat. So if you love Pete the Cat, you will also love Groovy Joe Ice Cream and Dinosaurs. And like other Eric Litwin books, in the back, you can go to his website and it shows you a dance. You could do the Groovy Joe dance, which I did. I make myself a Groovy Joe hat. So I dress up as Groovy Joe. And then I did have my 2 boys dress up in the blow up dinosaur costumes. And we did the Groovy Joe dance on a big stage in downtown Nashville. Yeah, they're teenagers now, so they probably hate to be reminded of that. But they did great, and the kids loved it. It was fantastic. So this is like a whole lesson plan waiting to happen. This could also take you a whole day of activities, Groovy Joe. So you read the book, you talk about dinosaurs, you play with dinosaurs, you get some spoons out, you get those fake like snowballs, throw them at each other, pretend like they're ice cream, have a great time, figure out how to do the dance because there's an online video of it. You may even see me if you Google it. I may pop up from the library dancing it. So let's see. I don't want to get too far behind here. Okay. Next book. Jabari Jumps by Gaia Cornwall. Wonderful book for older kids. Sorry, guys, hot flash. Heat just came on. All right, Jabari Jumps. This is a lovely book. And you know, you read a book and you love it, but you're like, I don't know if the kids are going to like it as much. But you know what? They really do, because I think they identify really with Jabari. It's about a little boy who's taking swimming lessons and he goes to the swimming pool. There is a high dive, which not many, I don't think kids these days know what that is because it's too unsafe. But back in my day, the big public swimming pool had the high dive and the low dive, right? So anybody who went up on that high dive was really, really big. Great. I'm so glad you like them. We've got more to go. So stay tuned. So it talks about how he gets his swimming lessons and he goes to the pool with his dad. And then he's like, I'm going to do it. And then he starts to climb up and he's like, nope, I got to stretch. Can't do it. And so he puts it off and he puts it off until his dad talks him through it. And he gets to the top and then he goes out. And see, there again, if there's a big moment in a book that you can build suspense with kids, that keeps them on the edge of their seats. So what I do, I'm like, I don't know if he's going to do it. You guys, he's up on the high dive. What do you think? And I'll turn the book to myself like this. And I'll be like, I don't know. Do you want to see? I'm too afraid. What do you think? And the kids were like, let's see what happens. And so I'll turn the page. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I turn it around and there he is up flying off the high dive. And the kids are like, hooray. And they're all excited because they all get behind Jabari. Okay. Wonderful, lovely book, all about being courageous. Okay. Back to our next skill is going to be, I think, vocabulary. Yes. So we all know what vocabulary is. Now, when I was teaching preschool, I have to say, you're going to get the books that you read that have some of the bigger vocabulary words in it. Sadly, I used to skip over them because I'm like, ooh, that's too big of a word. But what better way to teach vocabulary than with a picture book? And as we know with preschool kids, you never know if some of the seeds that you plant are going to take root or not. You just don't know. Sometimes it goes right over their heads. Heck, most of the information goes right over my teenagers' heads, and they know how to read. But with the little ones, you never know. And it might go in there and they're just going to remember that word and it'll make an impression. Okay. Now let's start with the littles. Mem Fox. I'm sure those of you know Mem Fox. She's an amazing author. Where is the Green Sheep? Okay. If you haven't read this book, it's terrific. It's got great vocabulary in it. All right. So what I do to make it interactive, and it's so adorable. The little ones, the 2-year-olds, oh my gosh. When I get them to do this, I'm like, okay, because it's a repetitive book. So here is the blue sheep, here's the red sheep, but where is the green sheep? Every other page says that, right? So I tell the kids, I'm like, so when we're looking for the green sheep, I want you guys to all do this. Everybody go, but where is the green sheep? And they all do. And it's the cutest thing. They're all like, but where's the green sheep? And they make the little faces and they copy you. It's the best ever. So this is a wonderful book. And then the kids are like them waiting for that page of like, where is he? I don't know. And then you have the big reveal at the end. And when I tell this story, I used to tell my husband, turn the heat. Sorry, you guys. I'm in my 50s. So I know some of you hopefully will understand. And if you don't yet, you will. All right. Yes. Thank you, Lisa Marie. Okay. Anyway, I use a magic bag if we have time at the end. That's one of the greatest tools I have ever used with my preschool classes to look at. You're younger than my mom. Well, that's good to know. Gotta be younger than somebody. Magic tricks, magic tricks, magic tricks. Google them, look them up because you want to get the kids' attention. Boom, like that, you've got it. You will have a chaotic classroom and the things will go wild because it happened. I don't know if it's a full moon or they ate a bunch of chocolate, but it all seems to happen in a big wave at once. Am I right? Yes. So all you have to do is say, oh, look, Miss Susan has the magic hat. I wonder what's going to be inside of it. And you will have quiet and focus on you just like that. So what I do is I hide sheep inside my magic bag or inside my magic hat, and I bring them out one by one. The kids love it. Okay. So Creepy Carrots by Aaron Reynolds is another great vocabulary book. This is one of the books where I was skipping over the word sinister because I'm like, they're not going to know the word sinister. And I would replace it. But I'm like, well, heck, why would you do that? This is a good chance maybe one of those kids will remember that word. And if you look at the illustrations, everything is in black and white. It's sort of a creepy looking book. It's about Jasper, and there's a couple more that he's written after this one about creepy carrots and whatnot. But Jasper, it's a terrific book, you guys, because there's a huge twist at the end. It's amazing to teach so many different things. This is also a great read aloud book to read more than once because you have to really kind of think about it. Big Words for Little People, I have that in my closet as well by Jamie Lee Curtis, yes. So Creepy Carrots talks about Jasper Rabbit is a rabbit who eats a bunch of carrots, right? And he goes to his favorite carrot patch and eats them all. Well, the carrots start to get mad. And so they start following him. And Jasper's like, oh my goodness, they show up in all these strange places and he whips his head around and they're gone. Nobody believes him. He tries to get his parents to say, there's creepy carrots under my bed. Nobody believes him. So great teaching lesson number one is that he solves his own problem. Okay. So he figures out how to deal with it and he decides that he is going to build a whole fence around the carrot patch. Okay. So he does. And at the very end, it says, and the creepy carrots of Krakenhopper Field. And I asked the kids, what do you think the carrots are going to do? And they're like, oh, they're going to try to get out and follow Jasper. I'm like, oh, well, as it turns out, they don't. They celebrate. They're so happy because their creepy plan worked. Now Jasper Rabbit will never get into their carrot patch again. See? So now you're like, now I want you to think, because at first you identify with Jasper. You're like, oh, poor Jasper has these creepy carrots following him all over the place. But I'm like, now just imagine you're a carrot. You're going to take some orange crepe paper and you're going to wrap your children up in orange if you want to. Make them into a carrot and put green construction paper on them. Now imagine you're a carrot and you've got this rabbit coming and yanking your friends out of the ground and shoving it. How would that make you feel? Huh? So the kids are like, oh, well, I don't think I'd like that. Exactly. And that's why the carrots scared Jasper so they could help their friends. So now you're learning empathy, all kinds of things. These books are just amazing. Okay. So yeah, great vocabulary in this to teach kids with. So, I mean, y'all, I could talk for days. All right. Perfect Square. This is an older kid book. So still 4s and 5s. But again, I have a perfect book like this, and it teaches so many things. It teaches shapes because it talks about a square, and one day it gets ripped up. And so it has to turn itself into something. So it creates a fountain. And then every day something happens. But it also goes by days of the week. It's a perfect calendar book. So it talks about on Monday, the square was torn up. On Tuesday, it was cut into tiny pieces. So with Perfect Square, you can teach days of the week. So good vocabulary there. You can have an art project every single day the kids come in. You give them the scraps of paper and have them create things. You can teach about shapes because the very first page says exactly what a square is, had 4 equal sides. So you can teach so many different things, so many lesson plans with one book. Lots of great vocabulary in here. Lots of wonderful, yes, the diversity of activities. Just, you could, again, spend a whole week doing lessons with one book. And the kids, you could read it over and over again. And it's just lovely. It talks about how this, It's also, I love teaching kids, which is a scientific thing about mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. There's a whole generation of kids, and I hate to say my kids are probably part of it. They hate to make a mistake and then they stop, right? They're so used to getting things right that if they encounter a mistake, they just stop trying to figure it out. So the point is, it's not a mistake. Look at it as just something you need to solve. It's no big whoop. It's torn up paper. That's something you can create something beautiful out of. So it's a great lesson right there to look at things in a completely different light. So, okay, we're doing good. I still have time. Next one is narrative skills. Yes, learning how to make mistakes. Huge. We got to do it. Narrative skills are very, very important to teach in preschool. It's simply the being able to tell about a story after you've read it. I read Crayon Story. I know. Crayon Story is terrific. Y'all, I could be here all night. We just have to get some cocktails and hang out. Yes, Beautiful Oops. That is also one of my favorite books. Okay. Turn the heat off. Narrative skills is about repeating a story back. So why is this important? For those third grade comprehension tests that the kids have to do. They have to understand what they've read. So narrative skills learned in preschool, the pre-literacy skill, is very, very important. The best kind of books to teach narrative skills are ones that have a specific sequence, which there's a lot of them out there that kind of repeat. Thinking of like The Napping House. This is by the same author illustrator. Sorry, I don't have the cover because it was well loved by my own children. King Bidgood's in the Bathtub and He Won't Get Out by Dawn and Audrey Wood. There are a couple beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Guys, you have to remember the art in these books were literally hand-drawn or painted, rarely used with a computer, by an artist. Every single page. And some of them have such crazy details that you're like, when you look at it as simply a piece of art, you're like, this is incredible that they drew this. Okay. So King Bidgood in the Bathtub is kind of like The Napping House. That's the most famous book, where the king is in the bathtub and he won't get out. Oh, who knows what to do? And then the Duke comes and tries to get him out. And then the Queen comes and tries to get him out. What was the name of this book again? This one, the no-name cover is King Bidgood is in the Bathtub by Dawn and Audrey Wood. So it's beautiful. So at the very end, I'll spoil it for you because now you're like, I have to read. How does he get out of the bathtub? So the page who keeps telling everybody, help, help, I need help. At the very end, he's got the whole court, because it's a big bathtub because he's a king. The whole court is dancing in the tub, and the page goes and pulls the plug. And that's how you get a king out of the bathtub. So there you go. But this is an easy story to retell for kids, to tell it back, because they say, well, who came in first? Well, I think it was the Duke that came in first, and then it was the Queen, and then at the very end, he got out of the bathtub. So yes, I know you guys, I can tell you love books as much as I do. We all want to share our favorites. Speaking of favorites, I have to go back to Mac Barnett. And this is my most wonderful favorite book ever. And this is the one I actually had him sign. So, The Wolf, the Duck, and the Mouse. Why do I love this book so much? For those of you a little bit sarcastic and like to play a couple of say little jokes for your kids sometimes. The very first page, you open the book. Once upon a time, a mouse met a wolf. And then you turn the page, and a normal children's book is like, oh, they had tea together. They had a lovely time. They had this friendship. But no, Mac Barnett says, and he was quickly gobbled up. Because that's exactly what would happen in nature, is if a wolf met a mouse, he would eat him. And so he does. So it's very cute, because some of the kids are like, oh, what? And you're like, hold on. And then you turn the next page, and there's the mouse. And he says, oh, well, oh, doom, what am I to do? I fear this is the end. And then he hears a voice that says, be quiet. Who's making all that noise? Something like that. And there's a duck So the whole story takes place inside the wolf's stomach. I mean, who thinks of this but a creative genius like Mac Barnett? So it's fun because the older kids, like 4 and 5 year olds, you got to make them think. Because I'm like, well, now hold on a second. The mouse was gobbled up, but where is the mouse now? Because he's still talking. And there's a duck. And then they have to think, oh, well, he's inside the wolf's belly. So cute, so amazing. Um, so when I met Mac Barnett, of course, you get to get your book signed. So I did. You wait in line to meet the author, and they give you a little post-it note where you write what you want them to write. You're like, oh, sign it to Susan, and I love books, and blah, blah, blah. This one is The Wolf, the Duck, and the Mouse by Mac Barnett, if that's the one you're asking about. If you're asking for the no cover one, I'll give you that. So you're welcome. So what I put on my sticky note and what he actually wrote was, to the best storyteller in Tennessee, Mac Barnett. Okay, but I told him to say that. But it's still good to take back, to people, and I get to brag about it, that Mac Barnett said that I was the best storyteller in Tennessee. I think I could show you this page because it's not any artwork. It's literally what he signed. The cute part is he put in parentheses, verified, and P.S. that storyteller is Susan Frizzell. So I didn't tell him to do that, and he did it all by himself. That makes me so happy. So see, there it is. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Yes, you will be getting Mac Barnett books because you love the sarcastic stuff in it, don't you? I love it. Okay, so another little pointer in this book. Okay, so again, you read through the book. How can I make this interactive? The story goes on. They're having a party inside the wolf's stomach. The wolf feels sick. Obviously, his stomach is killing him. There's a hunter, and he was like, oh no, here we go. And then whenever there's a suspenseful moment, I tell the kids, I'm like, everybody say dun dun dun, and they all do, and it's great. And the duck and the mouse decide, they're like, we must ride, we must fight to defend our home. And they put like hats on their head, and they grab a hockey stick, and they're ready to go. And so the page, you turn it, and I'm like, I hold the book like this, and I'm like, do you guys want to help the mouse and the duck and the wolf? And the kids are like, yeah. I'm like, okay, on the count of 3, we're all going to yell charge. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. And then I turn the book around, and I open to the page where the duck, you guys, it makes me laugh. The duck and the mouse are shooting out of the wolf's mouth. It opens it up, and they're like, charge! And they all go out of the wolf's mouth. And the hunter's like, whoa, there's spooks in these woods. And he runs away. So the kids get all excited about it because they get to yell charge. And when I open the page for them to do that, the kids are completely focused. They're like this. They're like looking, and they totally are quiet, and they're looking at the book. Okay. Again, focused on you and on the book. They're learning, they're focusing. It's hysterical. The very end of the book, and you gotta howl, do not be embarrassed, is like a little moral at the very end where it says, and that's why when you hear wolves at night go, ow, 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 it's because their stomachs are hurting. That's why, ow, because everything they swallow is having a party inside the belly. How did you not love Mac Barnett? Oh my gosh, there's so many more Mac Barnett stories I have to tell you, but I don't have time. All right. So, yes, that's why I'm standing up and presenting, because I could never sit behind a desktop and do this. All right. Wordless books. Yes, I should do a storytelling masterclass. It's so much fun. Wordless books. Have any of you ever read a wordless book? If you guys use them, go ahead and hit the chat if you've used them in your classroom. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because when I was teaching, yes, good. They had just started to come out. That's how old I am. And I didn't know what to do with it. But I love the illustrations, and they were fantastic. Yes, I'm so happy to hear you guys use the wordless books. So the best part about it is when, yes, the Carl books are wordless. Yep. So David Wiesner, so sorry, Tuesday. Yeah, see a song, Eric Carl. If you have never read, read, gotten a wordless book by David Wiesner, his illustrations are amazing and they're very fantastical. Okay. Tuesday that I have no cover to show you. I'm sorry. Everybody's gonna be like, what's the title of that again? It's called Tuesday. Okay. It is funny to hear the comments that kids make. So with a wordless book, it's great for narrative skills because the kids tell you the story. You guys know this. It's terrific for non-readers, for ESL kids, because everybody can read it because they're looking at the pictures. Okay. Tuesday is about frogs and they're just hanging out, and suddenly out of nowhere, they rise into the sky and they start flying and they go on adventures. And it's hysterical. The comedy in the book with just pictures where these frogs are like flying in. They fly in through an open window where there's an old lady asleep with her TV remote and they're sticking out their tongue and changing the channels. And then the dog is chasing one of them flying this way. And then the next page comes and all of the frogs are chasing the dog. I mean, it's just amazing. So David Wiesner books are more for older kids, but they're fantastic and the illustrations are gorgeous. So quick story because I have to tell you. So at the time that I was teaching, I was single, okay? And I was going out and I had just found David Wiesner books. And again, I was geeking out about it because they were so beautiful. And so this guy takes me on a first date. He's all dressed up and we go out to dinner. And I'm like, we have to go to the bookstore. I have to show you a book. And he was like, okay. Granted, this man is not a teacher into children at all. He's like some corporate guy. So we go into Barnes and Noble and we sit in the tiny little chairs at the tiny little tables, two adults dressed for dinner, no kids. And I'm showing him this book because I'm so excited about it. And I'm like, and look at this. And it's so funny with the frogs. And when you see this page, and I was all excited. And he just, poor guy was just like, oh, okay, it's great. I mean, so I'm sure you're wondering now, did we go out again? Yes, a couple more dates, but then he told me he loved me right away and it got weird. He was can turn out to be a stalker. So, I don't know. Maybe he had a mommy thing about him. I shouldn't have read the children's book. So if you go out on a first date, be very careful with reading your date children's books. I don't know. Might turn into a thing. But David Wiesner is a fantastic author. Definitely check him out. Lots of great books. Okay. Little peek.
When are we going to hear the end of the story?
Oh, so the end of the story is, yeah, I broke up with him because he was like asking, he got too stalkerish. Like he wanted to get married right away. I'm like, no, it's like the third day. What the heck? Yeah. So it was weird. It was weird. I had to cut him off. And then, he kept trying to contact me. It was bad. It was no good. No good. The book is still fantastic, though.
So don't read a David Wiesner book on a first date.
Hey, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
We got the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story. So, all right, next literacy skill, phonological awareness. Woo! You see, got the heat on. Okay. Phonological awareness. This is pretty obvious. It is teaching kids about the sounds of the letters and the sounds of the words, how you put them together to make a word. Great. It seems like that's the trend back. I remember back in my day, it was hooked on phonics, and then they got away from that. We're teaching the whole language, and now they're back to phonological. People making the rules. Are they really teachers? Probably not. No, I'm going to say no. But regardless, that's what they're doing now. So the way we do that, you want to choose books that have a lot of fun words in them, nonsense words, rhyming books, things like that, to a lot of word play. And that will start off your enjoyment of teaching phonological awareness. Now we're going to go back to Steve Light, our New York author, because He's got this fantastic book series. Again, for those teachers with the younger kids, they're board books. They're called Diggers Go. This is a whole series that he did, super simple, but inside it talks all about the sounds, and he draws pictures of all the different construction, the backhoes, and all those things. And it will say, like, the jackhammer goes, and you have to sound out the word together because it's all just a string of letters together, and you have to figure out, you have to sound it out along with the kids. So it's a great way to show how to figure out what the word is by going along with the sounds. Plus, you have diggers go, you have cars go, you have boats go, all of the things that little kids love, and planes go. It's a whole series of a bunch of these books. They're fantastic. Yeah. And they love making the sounds with you, and they love looking at the pictures. Steve Light is just really a fantastic author. So that is why I'm suggesting him again. But look that series up for sure. They're great books. If any of you have seen the book with no pictures, I think, is it the actor BJ Novak from The Office or something? I can't remember. Yes, it's very funny because the kids have to concentrate on the words only. So it's actually very good for print awareness. But there's a lot of nonsense words in this. And the book is great because even though there's no pictures, yes, so I see some of you have read it, the kids go nuts for it because it tells you what to do. Because it says, whoever's reading this book has to say exactly what I tell you to. And so you're like, wait a second, what? And then it goes, of course, I am a monkey who taught myself to read. Hey, I'm not a monkey. I can't believe the book said that. And now I am reading you this book with my monkey mouth and my monkey voice. So the kids really love it. But then there's a whole page of nonsense words that you got to say, blah, 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 all these crazy things. So you get to sound out the words along with the kids. And as you can see, a lot of you have read it, and you know your students are like, yes, this is the funniest book. I love it. Again, they're concentrating on you. You have their attention. You're good to go. Now, this gem, Silly Dilly Songs, for those of you who enjoy singing. And if you don't enjoy singing, you should do it anyway, okay? Phonological awareness is really perfect when you sing a song. So if you think about it, you sing, like, let's say you read Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star versus singing it twinkle, twinkle, little star. See, it breaks it down into syllables. Perfect way to teach phonological awareness. Now, again, if you like the sarcasm and being a little goofy with your kids, Take Me Out of the Bathtub and Other Silly Dilly Songs by Alan Katz and David Cotreau. Yes, nonsense words are perfect for sure. So this is taking your favorite songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and changing the words to diaper change or something. Well, I could probably open it and not show you. But it's so much fun. Your kids love to hear you sing the goofy songs, of course. Oh my gosh, Alan Katz comes to your book festival. I would love to meet him too. I would probably fangirl out of him too. So I've been cleaning up my bedroom, sung to the tune of I've Been Working on the Railroad. I've been cleaning up my bedroom all the live long day. So it's really cute. The kids love for you to sing that to them. Have a little bit of time. So another quick story in Nashville. I got invited to a music industry party where they had karaoke. I'm like, yes, I am going, and I am bringing in Alan Katz book because it was a Christmas party, and he has a Christmas song book that's fantastic. Yeah, so walking in a winter wonderland. There's something in my brother's doorbell rings. Gee, who is it? Party guest, Christmas visit. The mood is so swell, but what does that smell? There's something in my brother's underpants. Well, it kills at teacher conferences. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I thought I was golden, except when you're in the Nashville music industry, I sang that. And then, of course, I wasn't used to singing to the track. So there's a little interlude, and I completely got off the melody. And then the words were really wonky. And so everybody kind of was like eating their barbecue like this, like, and I kid you not, people, you always put yourself out there no matter the consequences, because now I got a great story out of it. But I was done, and there was silence. There was literal silence. They were such in shock and had no idea what the heck was going on that they weren't even polite enough to be like, oh, very good, very good. No, no, there were crickets. And so I kind of, even my poor husband standing there, he had his phone up at the beginning, and like part of the way through, he was like, and he just kind of put it down. Yep.
So the
No,
moral of the story is watch your audience. Be
I,
careful in selecting the right audience with the right book.
oh yeah, exactly. 100%. Don't sing any Alan Katz songs at a Nashville or in Orlando for that matter, because there's lots of talented people there. But regardless, singing is great for teaching that, and his songs are hysterical. My kids personally love the Christmas song, so that's all that's important. So ha
Susan,
ha.
no
Yeah.
record deal?
No record deal. Sadly, I tried. No, no, but I do. If you go onto my YouTube channel, I do have some songs on there that I created for phonics. But then I have my friend Mr. Andrew sing them. So anyway, I don't know. You never know. I'll just self-publish, and then we'll all be good. All right. Last skill. Woo, we're about to make it, y'all. Letter knowledge. Very simple. It's just, I don't know why they just don't say learning the alphabet, because that's all it is. What I've got to say, you know that there's 9,000 alphabet books out there. So the last pre-literacy skill is just getting to know your letters. But to me, there should be a process to which alphabet books you use first. Okay. So you have alphabet books that talk about the shape of the letter. And then you have alphabet books that just talk about the letter. And then you have alphabet books that talk about the sound of the letter. So when you're using them in preschool, always look for the books that talk about the shape of the letter first, because this is the best way to learn your letters, especially when you're little. You want to look at the shapes. You concentrate so they get to know that. This is a wonderful book, the Turnaround Upside Down Alphabet Book. And when you open it up, it shows the letters like, oh, look, now it's a bird's beak. Now it's an ice cream cone. Now it's the point of a star. So again, it's one of those fun interactive books, but it talks about the shapes, and it's just terrific. So I highly suggest this one. There's others out there that talks about the shapes, but you're going to start with the shapes. And then Lois Elhart, I know she's another favorite. I'm sure many of you have her books. They're fantastic, Eating the Alphabet. So then it talks about the letters themselves and things that start with that letter, like gooseberries and grapefruits and grapes and H's and H's for huckleberries and things like that. So that would be the next step, is to talk about what the letter stands for. And then you would want to move into the alphabet books that talk about the sounds of the letter. This is a really fun book. R is for robot. And each letter, it has a really fun sound to make. Like for the letter C is clank, clang, clong, and B is beep, beep, boop. So you can do some fun robot sounds with your kids and talk about the alphabet letters in that way. So when you're teaching the alphabet to your kids, just a suggestion, you look for your shapes first, talk about the letters themselves, and then move on to the sounds. So those are your 6 skills. Now let me make sure I got everything I wanted to say. Yes. Okay. Good. Just to make sure, because you have a little quiz at the end, make sure you're paying attention. Hopefully you did. I know you'll be able to answer everything about Mac Barnett now. The name of the first alphabet book. Yeah, it's fantastic. It is the Turnaround Upside Down Alphabet Book. Oh, by Lisa Campbell Ernst. Oh yeah, a lot of variety of books. I try to give you guys a good variety. I do a lot of teacher professional development presentations and conferences. So I know, especially like the infant toddler teachers are usually left out. So I try to give lesson ideas and books for you guys as well, because I know pretty much every conference you go to, you're like, oh, this is just for older kids, you know? You're welcome. Yeah. So I know, how could you not love the books? I mean, children's books are just amazing. That you go to the bookstore and you just sit in the children's section looking through all of them. They're wonderful for teaching uppercase letters. So let's see. I'm going to say the robot one. Again, I can't show you the pages. The letters are all uppercase in this book. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. You also kind of want to look at the uppercase versus lowercase, because you do always start with the uppercase first and then go to the lowercase. So I should sell these all together, y'all. If I could figure, I've had so many teachers say that to me. You should do an Amazon link, because if you were in my tips and tricks for story time, I show you all these tools and things that totally get kids' attention. You get them all on Amazon. I'm like, I get nothing for it, but at least you know it's an honest, it's an honest suggestion.
So I'm not sure if people have questions, but we are going to wind down.
Yeah.
Feel free to, ask any. Um, I, I don't have questions myself. I was laughing too hard to think of questions.
You're
But
welcome.
people noticed you're a very good storyteller.
Good. Magic bag. I know. Do you guys really want to see the magic bag? I should have you go to my website, and that way you can go to my, it'll give you, if you give you motivation, go to my website.
So I think we probably ought to leave people with the where they can go. And so the next thing, let's see, would be, um, to get in touch with Susan, you can just do the QR code right there if you want. Fabfritz.com, Fabfriz, fabfritz.com,
Mhm.
or Susan LWF at mac.com. And then for more information about upcoming webinars or the webinar library, uh, scan the QR code on the left, Young Child Learning. Just go to youngchildlearning.com. And it was really a great pleasure having you, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you come back.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys for all the comments. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to read them all as they pop up. Yeah, on my website, I've got, if any of you guys do, I know everybody does the big long in-service day, right? So I make short little hysterical videos, like a little 5 minute stretch thing that's all about being a preschool teacher. I did diaper changing 101 rules, but in a very funny way. So if you need like a little short free video, they're all on YouTube. Just pop in and show it at your in service to get some laughs, some things going, and also learn a couple of things. But yeah, so I have all those things on my website, easy to go to. Just look it up, and then you can ask me any questions or contact me from there too. So I'm so glad it was informative. That's my goal, is for you guys to walk away and be like, I can do this tomorrow in my classroom. That was so easy. I just go check out books. So
Thank
yes,
you
the
so
best.
much, Susan.
You're welcome.